Welcome back to the Faithful Pulse, where we explore the heartbeat of faith and the rhythm of real life. I'm your host, Paul Purifoy, and today we're addressing an old but familiar challenge, one that many believers have heard. Where's the peer-reviewed scientific proof of God? Until then, your belief is garbage. Those are some strong words. It is a fair question, however, and today we're not going to avoid it. We're going to go straight into it. Let's start with honesty. If you demand peer-reviewed lab results of God in a test tube, you're asking science to do something it's not built to do. When people say, show me scientific evidence of God, we have to ask, what kind of evidence are we expecting? Science, from the Latin, means knowledge and studies natural phenomena, and that's through observation, experimentation, and repeatability. So here's the issue. The origin of the universe cannot be observed, repeated, or tested. It's outside the boundaries of what science can directly measure. Dr. Harry Rimmer put it plainly, there is not a science of origin. Scientists may hold individual theories about the beginning of things, but science itself cannot deal with origin. Real science is a correlated body of absolute knowledge based on observation, and nobody was there to observe the beginning. That doesn't make faith irrational. It makes it philosophical, just like belief in logic, numbers, morality, consciousness. None of these things are material, but they are all accepted as real. So we're not talking about scientific proof the way we'd prove gravity. We're talking about inference to the best explanation, a legitimate reasoning method used in science and law alike. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So in the Greek here, that substance means an underlying reality, the real reason, unseen stuff. And the evidence is the proof that convinces, even if not visible to the eye. So in other words, just because you don't see it directly doesn't mean it isn't real. Here are a few areas where evidence points us not to atheism, but actually toward a creator. The origin of the universe, cosmology argument here. The universe began to exist. Bordegoth theorem, I believe is how it's pronounced, shows that even a multiverse must have a beginning. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. That cause must be immaterial, timeless, and powerful. That sounds a lot like God to me. How about fine-tuning of the universe? Peer-reviewed physics journals are full of data showing that the fundamental constants of nature are so finely tuned that even a slight variance would make life impossible. The constants of physics are tuned so precisely that life would be impossible with even the smallest variation. Sir Roger Penrose calculated the chance of the universe happening by accident is 1 in 10 to the 10th power to the 123rd power. In other words, that is something that's virtually impossible. Physicist Paul Davies said it well. The impression of design is overwhelming. And as an atheist physicist, Paul Davies admits this raises the impression of design. You also have biological information. The DNA in every cell contains encoded information using 4 chemical bases. And now ask yourself, where does coded information come from? And as every programmer knows, every known instance of information always comes from a mind. And one of the most well-known atheists of the 20th century admitted the complexity of life and led him to abandon atheism and accept deism. Anthony Flew saw this and saying, DNA's complexity shows that intelligence must have been involved. He didn't say that because of religion. He said it because of science and the moral argument. If there's no God, there's no objective moral standard. Yet we all believe that certain things like torturing children or genocide are objectively wrong. The moral law here points toward a moral lawgiver. Let's continue with even more fingerprints here. The universe had a beginning. The Big Bang Theory, backed by the modern cosmology, confirms the universe had a beginning. Stephen Hawking, Roger Penrose, and others agree this universe is not eternal. Philosopher Anthony Kinney said, a proponent of the Big Bang Theory, if he is an atheist, must believe that the universe came from nothing and by nothing. That's not just unscientific, it's unreasonable. And the law of causality says everything that begins must have a cause. That cause must exist outside time, space, and matter. That's not random nothingness. That someone is God. And how about the first law of thermodynamics? Matter and energy can't create themselves. Where did it all come from? Scripture said it long ago. He stretches out the north over empty space. He hangs the earth on nothing. Job chapter 26, verse 7. And how about universe? What does it mean? Una means one. Verse is spoken. So universe is one spoken sentence. Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 3. And God said, let there be light. The universe was spoken, not random, but declared. If you want peer-reviewed evidence, let's look. The Return of God hypothesis by Stephen C. Meyer cites over 100 peer-reviewed sources in physics, biology, and cosmology. Cambridge philosopher of science Peter S. Williams argues persuasively that theism offers better explanatory power than materialism, and journals like Nature and the Royal Society continue to publish articles admitting gaps in naturalistic explanations. They don't say here's God, but they absolutely affirm that intelligent causality is a rational inference based on the evidence. Now, some might say that's not proof. Okay, fair enough. But remember what Jesus said in Luke chapter 16, verse 31, which has been proven that he is real. He did exist in history. And his words were, if they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead. This isn't just about evidence. It's about the posture of the heart. God leaves fingerprints, but he does not force himself. Why? Because he desires relationship. He wants you and I to have a personal relationship with him. He's not looking for robots. If you're skeptical, and you're truly skeptical, don't stop at dismissal. Dig deeper. Ask questions. Read the Gospels. Seek with honesty. Find out what's going on. Get the answers that you need, because God's not afraid of your questions. Matter of fact, he wants you to search it out. And he places that strictly in his scriptures, in the scriptures as well. In Proverbs chapter 25, verse 2, for it is the glory of God to conceal the things, and it's the honor of the kings to search out the matter. He wants you to search what is there, to discover a real relationship, to discover what he has for you. Romans chapter 1, verse 20 says, since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power, and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. You are not random. You are designed. You are loved. And you are invited to know the one who made you. So thanks for tuning in to this special episode of The Faithful Pulse. This isn't about blind faith. It's about a reasonable trust. So until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep your life beating in rhythm with the truth. All the best, and God bless.